Good evening, friends and family, and thank you to another night with Behind Black Businesses podcast. Um, our organization, Repair, Restore, and Grow Black Communities, we are very happy to bring this podcast to our community because it gives us an opportunity to showcase all of the wonderful Black-owned businesses that we have that are serving the Chicago area. And one of the businesses that we have tonight is Magnolia Crescent. And I want to thank you so much, Anthony and Karriemah, for taking time out of your busy day to be here tonight.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we get started, as you know, we are a nonprofit organization and we're working to help circulate dollars in our community. And to do that, we support Black businesses because Black businesses are going to hire Black people more likely. They're more likely to do business with other Black entrepreneurs, giving them opportunities within their businesses, also receiving services from other Black-owned businesses. They contribute to our causes and certainly serving as role models to our children. And many of them, because of what they're doing, they're inspiring their own children to become entrepreneurs. So this is a wonderful thing. And while we have so much negativity out here about what's going on in our community, we've chosen to focus on the positive. And that's why we do this. And as we mention every week, we are great supporters of our Black-owned bookstores. We feature a Black bookstore on our website every month. And then we sponsor a book giveaway where that bookstore chooses a book and we purchase that book and give it away to one of our lucky subscribers. And it's totally at our cost because we feel it is so important that we are reading in our community. And I'm seeing an upsurge in that area. When we first started this podcast, we only knew of 2 Black bookstores left here in Chicago, where we once had 22 Black bookstores. And now we have 9 bookstore establishments serving the Chicago community. We have lots of authors out here now that are writing books, and we are encouraging these authors to please place your books in our Black bookstores. Last month, Afriware was our bookstore of the month, and our book that we gave away was Dick Gregory's Natural Diet for Folks Who Eat Cooking with Mother Nature. And we couldn't find the winner, so we had to select another winner, and we found her, and that's Darlene Neal, who is in Cincinnati, Ohio. And congratulations, Darlene, you have won Dick Gregory's Natural Diet for Folks Who Eat Cooking with Mother Nature. And thank you to Afriware for being our bookstore of the month. Now, for this month of November, we have the Underground Bookstore, which is located at 1727 East 87th Street here in Chicago. Underground's been servicing our community for over 20 years, getting close to 30 years. And Brother Yoel, the owner of Underground, has selected a 4-pack series by Robert Greene. Now, Robert Greene is author of books on strategy, power, and seduction. And he's known for writing books and telling us about corporations, what they're doing and how they operate. And we know that corporations are having a huge impact on our lives in education, in health, in the media, in our political realm. Corporations are having a huge influence on people here in America. And in this 4-pack series, we're offering 48 laws of power, art of seduction, concise laws of human nature, and concise laws of mastery. So all you have to do is go to rrgbc.org and subscribe, and you could win this 4-pack series as our book giveaway for the month of November. And we also want to mention that we have a public policy piece on the table. So if you go to change.org, Save Black Bookstores in Chicago, and sign the petition, we want our local schools and our local libraries to give contracts to our Black bookstores. So that's what that petition is about. So please go and sign. And lastly, support our banks. We have the Southside Community Federal Credit Union here in Chicago that's been servicing our community and giving loans for cars, personal loans, mortgages. This is Black-owned institution that has been servicing our community for over 20 years. And if a bank, the way a bank thrives is when we open up accounts and we put money in those banks, and that's how those banks make money. So please support the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. Okay, so now let's get to our guests, Magnolia Crescent.
Yes.
I met this wonderful couple family at the Water Tower here in Chicago, and they were showcasing wines. So Magnolia Crescent owns an orchard, and they distribute their own brand of wines. And I purchased the Merlot, the red Merlot,
Yes.
and I just love it. It's and what's special here, this is non-alcoholic.
Right.
Yes, it is. It's non-alcoholic, but it has a wonderful flavor. So, Karriemah or and Anthony, I would like for you to tell us how did you come to start this business? What inspired you to start this business?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Sister Pearl, for having us on. And I just can't really express the gratitude for both myself and my wife that you would invite us to be on your platform. And just listening to your opening announcements, I mean, it's so many synergies in the things that you stated that really resonates with us, whether it's talking about highlighting Chicago businesses, to your emphasis on reading and literacy and family business. I mean, I won't go into that now. Maybe at the conclusion of our talk, there'll be more that we can elaborate on just so much in what it is that you stated already. But Magnolia Crescent Orchards, a non-alcoholic winery, we actually were started from, there was an experience that my wife and I had. This is kind of as we were first starting to emerge out of quarantine. There was a Sunday where I was trying to stay at home and binge on Netflix television series, and my wife was not having it. But in a very loving and beautiful way, she was encouraging me and cajoling me to let's get out of the house and let's have a family outing on a Sunday afternoon. And so she wanted to go to a winery that's north of Atlanta, actually about 2 hours north of Atlanta. And so we visited this wonderful winery where upon getting on the grounds, we met the owner, and he promised to give us a tour. And so while we were waiting, we, by it being a winery, of course, they have it where customers who come can actually purchase wine by the glass or by the bottle. But because it was my wife and I, we don't drink, and we had our children, one thing that caught my attention on their menu was fruit slushies. And so I felt like that was a safe bet. So I got 4 slushies for us. We get back to where they were seated. And normally whenever we go out as a family, I'm the first one to take a drink. It's just, I'm the kind of person where I'm at a restaurant. By the time, before we get our food, I've already had like 3 refills of my beverage. I don't know what it is. I guess I'm very thirsty. Anyway, so I took a sip of the slushies and immediately tasted that it had alcohol in it. So I had to stop everybody. The children were probably right here with it.
Oh my
Stop right
goodness.
there. And so put it down. I gathered everything and had to return it so that I could replace it with some soda. Um, but later on, the owner came out. He gave us a tour of the vineyard. We took a ride on these ATVs, these four wheelers. We had a great time. And the
Mhm.
overall experience was beautiful. It was educational. We had fun. On our way back to Atlanta, my wife and I, we were discussing, like, man, it would be nice for us to have this kind of an experience, but to have it where there's no alcohol involved. So that was
Mhm.
kind of the germ of the idea of us having our own non-alcoholic winery. Well, this first step was to actually start finding some non-alcoholic wine. And my wife, who is an expert researcher, she
Mhm.
found a brand of wine. We tasted it, we liked it, and then we were telling our friends about it. And they were like, well, that sounds good. We would like to buy it as well. And then that's when we had the idea that this could become a business that we could participate in, where we
Mhm.
would actually curate these non alcoholic wine and we would provide a platform where people, such as our friends and family, and even people we don't know, can
Mhm.
purchase from us online. So I will just add that as a correction. These are not our brands, not
Okay.
yet, but we curate them. And the world
Okay.
of non-alcoholic wine, not all non-alcoholic wines are made equal.
Right.
Okay.
Some really are bad, be honest with you. And so we make it our mission to kind of filter out all the bad items and produce, well, not produce, but actually provide
Mhm.
access to the best in non-alcoholic wines, such as the Merlot that you were referring to. Uh,
Mhm.
and so that's really how we got started. Now, after we got started curating this wine was when we actually acquired our property in Chattahoochee Hills, Georgia, which is just 20 minutes outside of Atlanta. And that became a place as it's an orchard
Mhm.
and it's a non-alcoholic winery. So the orchard part is we're actually building where we actually planted like over 80 different fruit trees and fruit shrubs. In addition to that, we actually have hens and we also have bees. And so we are really creating this homestead environment, which is so close to Atlanta. People will probably be surprised how you can really have this real, authentic, rural experience. Like
Okay.
our experience is so rural that our internet is terrible. Like,
Oh wow.
like
So so
there's no fiber.
you actually have an orchard. So
Yes.
to tell the audience, what is an orchard? What is that?
Well, there are several different types of orchards. However, we have a micro fruit orchard.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's one of the first things, if I could just share this story quickly. One of the first things that we did before my husband planted the first tree, and also a big brother of ours in Atlanta named Brother Tenicio,
Yes.
is I packed up the children and we drove out to an orchard, maybe about an hour and a half away from the house, something like that. And as soon as we got out of the car, I had the children read the sign, and the sign read 100, I think it was 130 years. And I said, now let's walk around.
Mhm.
And I let them see the mature trees. I let them see the grocery or the little market they had, and we walked through the entire market, and they got to see all the products that they pulled. And I said,
Mhm.
everything you see here, they got from that orchard out there. And the reason why we did that is because I wanted the children to see the end game,
Mhm.
right? I wanted them to see this is what we are working towards. And it's important for all of us to have that visualization, if you will,
Mhm.
because when we got back to our house and my husband started planting and Brother Tanisio started planting the first few trees,
Mhm.
if you looked at where we started, you might give up early, because orchards don't pop up overnight.
Okay.
So if they had 130 years lead time on us, right?
Okay.
That's at least what? Three or four, what is it? 4 generations
At least.
at
Okay.
least.
Okay.
We're generation 1,
Yes.
Wow.
right? So we just wanted them to understand that 4 generations started somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
One of those generations was generation 1, and they had fruit trees and fruit shrubs that looked just like ours. They were young, they're just getting started, they hadn't even taken root yet, right? There were no fruit that produced in that first year because we got some real baby trees, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as the years go on, fruit trees don't even start to produce until about 3 to 5 years out.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. However, once they take root and they start growing and they're producing, they will produce for generations to come.
Wow.
And our great elder and mentor, Baba Rashid Nuri, who you have to have on your show, dear sister,
Okay.
he said to us, that's not just generational wealth, but that is generational food.
That's right.
That's right.
And that
And
is so impactful. That is so important that we have control over our food source.
that's right.
You
That's
know,
right.
that is very important. So you started your orchard and you have how many types of varieties of fruit trees?
We have apples, we have
Pears
pears, peaches, plums, we have fig, we have persimmons, we have something that's called hardy oranges.
or Japanese orange is the same thing.
Yeah, we
Mhm.
also have, in terms of our fruit shrubs, we have blueberries, blackberries, and golden raspberries.
So 10 to 11 different varieties.
Okay. And so you said it takes 5 years
Three to
for
five years, depending
three
on
to 5 years
for the fruit trees.
for the
The
fruit
fruit
trees.
shrubs, it's a quicker turnaround. So it's about, depending on when you're planting it, say give or take a year.
Okay. So when did you start? What year did you start planting?
We started last year.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
I think my wife mentioned a gentleman named Tanisio Seamina. He's
Mhm.
actually the urban agriculture director for the City of East Point, Georgia.
Mhm.
Um, and so he came out and he planted our first few apple trees, and I
Mhm.
think maybe even some plums or something
Mhm.
like that.
Mhm.
And then he showed me how, because I'm 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 legit Chicago. Like, I never cut grass, Sister Pearl, until I moved to Georgia. Uh, Sister Denise, pardon me. I didn't cut grass until I actually bought my first home in Ellenwood, Georgia. This is like
Okay.
2001. That was my first time ever cutting grass.
Okay.
And so when it comes to learning how to plant shrubs, like, I don't know, I didn't know the first thing about it.
You're
So I learned how.
totally out of your element.
Exactly. So I learned how to use a tiller and an auger. The tiller was used to actually turn up the soil so that I can plant the shrubs. The auger was used to drill into the earth to actually plant the trees. And I remember the last batch. I think we planted. Did we plant in 2000? We plant. No, you know what? We planted in April of last year,
Mhm.
and then unfortunately there was a early spring cold snap that came
Mhm.
through, and so we were
Mm.
thinking like it's April, and then that's cool, but there was still a frost that came through in April, and it basically killed everything that we had planted in April.
Okay.
So we had to go back to a nursery and get more of the fruit shrubs and more trees,
Start over.
and start over or add to whatever that was
Mhm.
left. And so last August is when we really planted everything that we have now. Myself and the late husband of my wife's cousin, we were out there planting. And so that's kind of how long. It's only been like a year and a half since we actually started.
So now you are Anthony. You are originally from Chicago,
That's right, born and raised.
and Karriemah, did you tell me you were from New York? Am I correct?
Yes, I was born in the Bronx, New York, but I moved around a lot because my father was in the military.
Okay. Okay, so but both of you are from the big cities, and so
Yes,
now you're in the rural area.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I was just listening at you talking about your first experience dealing with the till, and how did you feel? How did that, well, when you have a new experience like that?
It it was a learning experience. I wasn't intimidated by the prospect of having to do it. Uh, but I think what helped me was to have Brother Tanisio, really show me how to do it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's important. I think it would have been a completely different experience had I not had him or Baba Rashid Nuri as guides to help us along the journey. Like if I would have tried to just go out there and not have these brothers who have had experience, then I
Mm-hmm.
think I would imagine that it would have been a lot more intimidating, and I would
Okay.
have not had as much confidence going through the experience. And so, and even Karriemah, because she came up through uh, a program at there's an urban agricultural training center that Baba
Okay.
Rashid Nuri
Found it.
founded called Truly Living Well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
really had a huge impact in terms of urban agriculture in and around Atlanta. And so
Okay.
she was trained in these aspects of urban agriculture. So her experience, in addition to the experience of these two gentlemen, really helped me to have confidence that we can go through this experience and not feel like, I mean, obviously, like my wife was alluding to earlier, sometimes you plant things and they die, but
Sure.
that doesn't mean that you give up. You keep at it, and
Okay.
we've been able to realize that.
Okay, okay. So you um received, I was going to ask you, one of my questions was going to be, did you have to go to school for this? But you actually had someone that was mentoring you and helping you through this process. So now, in terms of the winery and distributing wine, do you have to have any type of certification for that?
It's interesting that you say that. And if I could just back up just a little bit to the training.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like to tell this side of the story too, sister, because one of the things that we don't realize, because our sojourn in this country has pulled us completely away from the earth to the
Mm-hmm.
point where we don't realize that our very healing is in the earth itself.
Mm-hmm.
What led me to truly living well is that I was on a quest, yes, to learn how to cultivate the earth. I was a single mother of two at that time. This is before, marrying my husband now. And the organization that I reached out to said, well, you've got the godfather of urban agriculture right there in Atlanta. And I said, really? Who?
Mm.
I want to meet him.
Okay.
And they said Rashid Nuri with Truly Living Well. And so I was coming out of a failed marriage, and I needed healing. I needed comfort. And so I started volunteering, sister, for an
Mm-hmm.
entire year.
Okay.
And I'm having this biochemical exchange with the soil.
Absolutely.
And I'm pouring out my heart and soul to the soil. I remember one time the sister gave me the task of pulling up all the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was pulling up the weeds, I said, man, I want to pull up all these bad ideas about marriage that I have, and
Mm-hmm.
all
Mm-hmm.
these bad concepts that I've been
Okay.
carrying around that don't serve me well. And
Sure.
so it just really helped to heal me in a way that ultimately prepared me for not only the marriage that I'm in now, but also what we're doing in our business. So I just wanted to
Okay.
share that as a foundation in terms of
Mm-hmm.
how we are prepared for things, even when we don't know what we're being prepared for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so fast forward now to the training as it relates to the non-alcoholic wines. My husband and I are very much twin spirits because we don't believe in getting into involved in anything that we don't study.
Mm-hmm.
And so, uh, one thing about non-alcoholic wines is that even though they don't have alcohol, the process of cultivating wine, the process of learning about wine is the same. And
Okay.
so we both signed up for what's called WSET, which is the Wine Education and Spirits Trust.
Okay.
And we began taking their certification. This comes out of the United Kingdom. And they
Okay.
take you through a very rigorous training of learning about the grape and learning about soil and learning about how soil and environment can change or add certain complexities to eventually your wines.
Mm-hmm.
We learned how the wine is dealkalized and all the different ways in which it can be done. We learned about the various uh, aspects of wine, whether it's a dry wine or a medium wine or a sweet wine. And so
Okay.
all of those things has become a wonderful foundation for us when we are sharing information with clients, because these are
Okay.
questions that many clients would have. And
Sure.
because we speak to not only the novice non-alcoholic wine drinkers, but we also speak to the wine connoisseurs,
That's
people who have
right.
been drinking wine for years, and you need to know what you're talking about. So that way that there's a respect there and there's a trust there. So as you're
Sure.
guiding them from, from one non-alcoholic wine into another, they can trust that what you're sharing with them is going to be, good information. And
Yes. You brought several things up. I'll go back to the beginning part of where you talked about connecting with the earth.
Mhm.
And I have a very small plot in the community garden.
Beautiful.
I'm extremely busy, and sometimes I'm so tired, I can barely get over there, but something happens when I get there. I
Mhm.
don't care how tired I am, I may have to pull up weeds or, you know, do some harvesting or, move to do some replanting. But it's something about working with the earth that's
Yeah.
very soothing, that's very calming, that's very healing, very centering. So
Yeah.
the fact that you are able to do this and, have this experience and make a business out of this is really wonderful. And so I think that is really great. And then when you talk about knowing your craft, I
Yeah.
was thinking about the movie that I saw about the sommelier. I think I'm saying that correctly. And where someone can taste that wine
Mhm.
and know everything that's in it,
Yes.
know where it was grown, all these different, really detailed aspects of it. And so I'm sure a sommelier, someone that was, had studied in that field, would taste your wine, and they would be able to taste, all that you have added to it.
Mhm.
So it's a very interesting area of study, to say the least, to know about wines. And then you mentioned where you're growing it. uh, I know, we have the climate change going on.
Right.
So I'm sure that there's certain areas where you need a certain condition for
Mhm.
the growing of the trees. And I know some areas of Georgia, sometimes it gets cooler than it used to.
Mhm.
But I guess it's definitely a better place than Chicago.
Well, one of the things that our mentor shared with us is that we're in zone 7B, and he was talking about how it's becoming more and more subtropical.
Hmm.
And so we're finding that we're having longer and longer summers
Okay.
as a result of this global warming. Um, but one of the first things you learn in agriculture is that things are constantly changing. We
Mm-hmm.
are forever students. I don't care how long a gardener has been growing food, they will tell you they learn something new every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's just the nature of nature. Is
Okay.
that
Okay.
things are ever evolving, just like we ourselves are ever evolving.
Absolutely. And that should be in any area of study,
Mhm.
in any profession. There's a constant involvement. Um,
Absolutely.
I'm a speech pathologist, and I know we give tests to children.
Mhm.
And as time goes on, the tests have to change
Mhm.
because the vocabulary changes. You know, if I take a test that I had maybe 20, 30 years ago, and I give it to a student, and you got a picture of a telephone in there, you know, and they may be looking at it and saying, "What is that?" You know, because they're
Mhm.
used to the cell phones, you
That's
know,
right.
and so the vocabulary changes, new information, new items are brought into our lives. And so every area of study should be an involvement. And I think starting from the earth gives us a foundation to understand that.
That's
Absolutely.
right. That is right.
So now your orchard, is this a place where someone can come and visit, or is this something that you might be working on in the future?
So our plan is to open up late spring of next year.
Hmm.
That is the plan. And because of the fact, well, first we need to say that our micro orchard is actually our homestead. So we live there. It's not
Okay.
just a place of business, it is also our home. And
Okay.
so when we get to a point where we're going to open up our home to our what we call our sober, sophisticated family, uh,
Okay.
it is going to be RSVP based.
Sure.
So that way, we can kind of have some knowledge of who's coming to the property. Um, and we're only going to have 8 dates a season. So there will be 8 events in a season that we host. They are going to be wonderful events. I mean, those who we are have either volunteered to come and help us put it together, or that we have invited to come and join us.
Okay.
We plan on making these events some really beautiful, beautiful occasions, something that
Okay.
we can come together, like-minded people, good-spirited people in
Hmm.
the midst of nature. And I must say this, the reason why it's even called Magnolia Crescent is
Okay.
that we have something that is very unique on our property, and that is a magnolia tree rooting system. So wherever you look on our property, you will see all the forms of development of magnolia trees.
Hmm.
And then, of course, when you hit May, those magnolia trees are in full bloom, and they
Okay.
remain in bloom all the way through August. And it's just this beautiful scent that you smell from the magnolia
Wow.
on the property.
That
And
is
so that is the kind of environment that you would be coming to, right? Um,
okay.
you'd be greeted by our beautiful dog. Her name is Ife. She is our peaceful warrior. Uh,
Oh,
we
I have a friend in Jamaica named Ife.
have 11 egg-laying hens. We refer to them affectionately as the Golden Girls. And
Okay.
yes, Blanche is in there. Uh, we have two beehives, and since we will be going into year 2 with our beehives, we will have honey. We will
Okay.
have raw honey.
Okay.
We may even also have propolis if we're able to harvest it properly.
Okay.
And so everything we're doing, we're starting um, slowly,
Okay.
because everything that we are cultivating requires study.
Okay.
We actually have a book that we call our growing Bible, that we look up information on all the fruit trees, on
Sure.
all the fruit shrubs. We've taken beekeeping classes twice, actually. So Not only is my husband and I certified in beekeeping, but so are our children, and they're 14 and 12. And so, people may say, well, you don't have 15 beehives and you don't have, 100 hens. Have you ever taken care of even one hen? It is more than a notion.
Absolutely. That's
Um,
something you're going to grow into it.
you have to grow into, and the way
Mhm.
we see it, we've got time.
Okay.
But having people come, maybe that have never tasted rural living, for them to come and to see what it's like, and to be surrounded by such beauty, and then the creme de la creme, to be able to pop the bottles on the tops off of
Absolutely.
wonderful non-alcoholic wines and sparkling teas. I mean, you can't beat that.
Now, see, that is what really drew me, because I'm not a wine drinker,
Yeah.
and like your husband, was looking for, a non-alcoholic drink. And so that's what really drew my attention. And I was really impressed by the taste. But then I also know that there are medicinal properties
Yes.
to these wines. So can you speak to that?
So I would say that by far the greatest medicinal properties can be experienced in the red wine,
Mhm.
because of the what are called polyphenols. These are in chemicals that are in the wine that can help lower the bad cholesterol, can help balance out the blood sugar, or help to regulate rather the blood sugar for people who have diabetes. They
Mhm.
also are full of antioxidants that can help build up the body's ability to ward itself against the ill effects of so much toxicity in its environment.
Mhm.
And also because of the fact that what we specialize in is non-alcoholic wine, you get less sugar,
Mhm.
which means
Mhm.
less calories. And the alcohol does have the effect of helping, I'm sorry, not helping, but hurting your kidneys, your liver, and your nervous
Mhm.
system, puts pressure on them. And so you get all of these wonderful chemicals that are natural to the wine grape, but you don't get any of the negative effect that comes from the
Sure.
consumption of alcohol.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because I actually read that, I know people drink, we think about why people drink wines, because they want to feel a certain way. They want to feel happy, or they want to get drunk, or whatever. And actually, the brain uh, prefers that homostasis state, you know,
Right.
that's where the real happiness is. Because, like,
Absolutely.
you got the sugar and you got the alcohol, okay, it's going to escalate, and then you eventually got to come down.
Mhm.
You
And
know,
that's where you run into problems.
yeah. And to that point, one of the things that we say as Magnolia Crescent, almost as one of our taglines, we have a few. But one of them is that we are introducing a new way of adulting,
Mhm.
because
Hmm.
our experience growing up, particularly in this society, is that it's almost a rite of passage
Mhm.
for
Hmm.
a young adult to transition into adulthood. When they turn 21, they become quote unquote legal. And now that ushers them into being able to procure alcoholic beverages for themselves. And
Absolutely.
you, and I've kind of observed this interacting with the public, that even amongst people who are older than myself, it's almost they cannot conceive having or being involved in certain social settings, or even having a fun
Hmm.
time without alcohol involved.
That's
And
right.
so we are met with this kind of sentiment when we
Hmm.
propose, hey, would you like to come and sample some non-alcoholic wine? And in a joking way, but as we know, in every joke, there's often a grain of
Truth.
truth.
Mhm.
Hmm.
They can't conceive why. It's not just the taste, but it's
That's
why.
right. That's
Why
right.
would you even have, what is the point? Why would you do it? And so that opens the door for us to have some wonderful
Absolutely.
dialogue with people.
Mhm.
And you can almost see a slight paradigm shift
Mm-hmm.
where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't even considered this. And I'll say this, one of the things that we realized earlier when we started to get out to do events in the public where we're doing non-alcoholic wine tastings and presentations is that people were literally coming to us at the conclusion of these presentations in tears, Sister Denise,
Mm-hmm.
because what we realized through their testimony is that they had been feeling such pressure
Sure.
being in family settings, in certain social settings with friends, or even as I've experienced in a corporate context, where
Absolutely.
this pressure to fit in with what everyone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people who really don't want to subscribe to that.
That's
And
right.
so now when we introduce a non-alcoholic wine, it's
Mm-hmm.
almost like a great pressure release and a
Mm-hmm.
relief to know that they at least have an option. So when they get into these settings, they can at least in so many ways arm themselves with something that they can have with them so that they don't feel compelled to consume alcohol when that's not really what they desire to do in the first place.
That
Absolutely.
is, you are so correct. I can actually attest to that. I had a relative, and she was in her 20s, and she acquired a job in corporate,
Yes.
and they went for lunch every day,
Yeah.
and they had cocktails.
Yeah.
And from that, she became an alcoholic.
Wow.
Wow.
And she, I mean, it took her down, and I mean, she developed all of these illnesses, physical illnesses, emotionally. It was, I mean, I've never seen the destruction of a person like that before. And she passed away. I
Wow.
mean, and it was all from the alcohol, from just drinking and wine. She was drinking wine. It wasn't hard liquor, whiskey. It was wine, and it just, she was consumed. She was consumed by it. So what you're saying, I can definitely attest to. And mostly, like you say, it's the expectation that is there, the peer pressure,
Yeah.
in those different contexts.
And especially in corporate America, because oftentimes they use the socialization with alcohol as a either a team building exercise or
Hmm.
as a weeding out process to see if you are a team player.
Okay.
um, and that is a very dangerous game they're playing. To me, it's
Hmm.
no different from being pledged, and your the person who is pledging you is abusing you, right?
Sure.
In the name of pledging you.
Hmm.
And so, I believe that that whole approach within corporate America needs to be completely overhauled. It
Hmm.
would not be necessary for these corporate entities to have to develop an entire initiatives and programs for people to go into recovery. They have it now where if you just tell them you have become
Hmm.
an alcoholic, then they will not fire you, but they will put you, into a treatment plan that
Hmm.
that you would have to go to certain counselors and certain programs and the whole nine. But that may not be necessary if they would just
Hmm.
eliminate those of the types of what can I say, like pledging type processes that
Sure.
involve alcohol. You don't know what background your employees have that
That's
you're
right.
now inviting them into this culture of.
That's right.
And it not only is it in corporate America, but from a recent conversation we had, which is going to lead us prayerfully into some other wonderful things in the very near future, you find it also in among college students,
Oh yeah.
where every event has alcohol.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, this is supposed to be tomorrow's leaders
Hmm.
being trained, being groomed, being molded. and they're already grooming and molding them into alcoholics.
That's
So
right.
we have to rethink the entire process
Mm-hmm.
that we're subjecting ourselves to, and that also we are subjecting our children to. Um, we have gotten so far away from the history of how and wine came about and
Mm-hmm.
what it was initially intended for.
Okay.
In some countries, it was used as a part of their spiritual rites.
Mm-hmm.
In other ways, you'll find you could read old material that showed medicine women using it during childbirth as a form of as a septic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, antiseptic, to sterilize things, whether they're hands or the area, the things, the tools that they may have been manipulating. So there were other purposes for wine,
Mm-hmm.
um, outside of it being abused and used as a form of really mind control, because it was
Sure.
also used, given to soldiers to get them inebriated so that they would go out and pursue these wars, that those who were sending them out knew they were not going to be successful in. So it has been used in many different ways.
Well, it's just like, it comes down to when we were talking our books giveaway that we have. We're talking about how corporations seduce, how they control, they use their power over people. And it's like at the end of the day, it's about the dollar. And
Mhm.
that's what's happened with so many of the holidays that we have. If you go back and look at the history of the different holidays, Halloween had nothing to do with the ghosts and the goblins. It was about acknowledging those people in their lives that had passed on, in various cultures. And so, but then it gets to be, it's about the candy, it's about the costumes, it's about the money that's going to be made. And so that's ultimately what we get caught up in. And so the fact that you are willing to take this, you know, um, challenge of putting a non-alcoholic wine out here is, very impressive, and it's a blessing to our society because we need that, you know.
And if I could just say this briefly, sister, and this is no judgment on people who decide to drink alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that we are sharing is, please, at least be willing to entertain an alternative when you're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Half of our clientele consume alcohol, and they still consume alcohol. However, they are willing from time to time to either give it a break or, for their own reasons, do something different because they don't like the consequences that
Mm-hmm.
alcohol brings them. So, whether it be they need to get up in the morning and go to work so they can't afford to have a hangover, um, they may have medications that they're on temporarily, and they want something that they can still drink and enjoy, right? So they have their own reasons for giving it a rest. But we
Mm-hmm.
just letting the community know, look at us as a resource, for as an alternative to what
Okay.
you are drinking presently. And
Mm-hmm.
if you have decided that you want to make sobriety your way of life, then wonderful. We're right here. We're all for it, right? And we will be your greatest supporters. And then for those who are on a sobriety journey, give yourself time to get, anchored into this new life. And if 5 years down the road, you would like to take a look and see what Magnolia Crescent has to offer, then we are here for you. Um,
Okay.
but but we're definitely trying to be as supportive as we can to our clients, no matter where they are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, another benefit I see, with the non-alcoholic beverage, the non-alcoholic wine, is I know people who have tried to open up restaurants and they want to have wines or liquor in their restaurants, and they have to go through a whole lot of changes and financial layout to get those liquor licenses. So having this alternative for restaurants, I think would be good. So have you considered putting your products in some restaurants?
Yes, ma'am. We actually, it's funny that you bring that up because
Mhm.
I think no earlier in this year, during a meeting with our marketing strategist, we discussed the possibility of utilizing public records, if any existed, for businesses who um, had applied for alcohol license and maybe that application was rejected, or those that were still pending. We didn't know if that information was accessible to the public, but we thought about kind of utilizing that as a way to connect and reach out to those restaurants that were interested or considering non-alcoholic options. So to
Mhm.
answer your question, yes, we would. Um, Being that we consider what we offer to be premium in the space of non-alcoholic wine, we would prefer to cater toward fine dining or
Okay.
even high-end casual dining establishments.
Mhm.
Um, our not necessarily a tagline, but one of our trademarks is sober sophistication.
That is the
Uh,
tag.
that is the tagline, and
Mhm.
so we definitely want to embody that in everything that we do, whether it's how we present ourselves in the public or how and where we choose to have our products placed in the
Mhm.
marketplace. And so we definitely intend to pursue having, especially when we are in the process of developing our own Magnolia Crescent brand,
Mhm.
where we would actually have our own formula developed, that we would actually have ownership of that formula, that intellectual property. And
Mhm.
when we get to that point, we would definitely be pursuing restaurants and locations here in Chicago, like Bronzeville Winery or
Mhm.
Virtue Restaurant.
Mhm.
These are
Okay.
some of the establishments that we would want to reach out to make sure that they at least have access to what it is that we have to
Sure.
offer.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That is wonderful. So let's take this time to talk about your wines. To let us know what types of wines that you have. And I went online and saw that you have like 21 different types of wine. So let's just take this time to let the audience know about what you have.
So we have pretty much everything that a wine connoisseur or somebody who drinks wine occasionally will look for. So, in terms of, we have white wines such as a Blanco, which is similar to a Sauvignon Blanc or Pinot Grigio, is what our customers have told us. But we also have Chardonnay. We
Mhm.
have sparkling Chardonnay as well as still Chardonnay. We have sweet wine like Moscato, and then something new, relatively new for us, is a sparkling peach, which was very popular
Mhm.
today. We
Hmm.
also have red wines such as the Merlot that you referred to, but we also offer Tempranillo, which we have two. One is that is a little bit more tart. That's our Tortilla Tempranillo, but we also have a Lucery Tempranillo that's a little more sweet when you compare it to a Merlot. And we also have medium wines such as our rosés. Now we have 6 different varieties of rosés. We have 2 sparkling rosés. We have a virgin rosé,
It's a still.
and so still we have still versions of the sparkling rosés, and we also have, there's another rosé from Tortilla as well. And we also have sweet wines. I mentioned the Moscato, but we also have what's called a fortified or an aromatized wine, and that
Hmm.
is our vermouth. This is something that when you're talking about ginger and cinnamon and uh,
Oh, yeah, I got a chance to taste that one.
yes, so
Mhm.
it's a nice, it's spicy, but
Hmm.
it's natural spice, but it's
Mhm.
sweet at the same time. And
Mhm.
a lot of our customers, the description, they become very intrigued. And when they try it, they, more times than not, they are definitely
Mhm.
impressed and really love it. I mean, I wish I could capture the body language, how the eyes raise up. Wow. And we also carry, Sister Denise, sparkling tea.
Mhm.
Now, this is something that you won't find any place. This is actual tea. We have two. One is the BLA, which is jasmine, Darjeeling, and white tea on the bed of white grapes. The other is called Lycerod, which is hibiscus tea, Sylvania oolong tea on the bed of grapes. And all the teas are organic. And so this is for people who either don't like the taste of wine or maybe having wine allergy because of the tannin that's in the red wine and in the rosé as well.
And they're also vegan friendly.
And they're also vegan friendly.
Vegan friendly.
They are styled like a sparkling wine. They're carbonated, so you can have it in the flute glass, and you can pop a cork, and you can have it as a celebratory toast. But we also have, I didn't mention this, we have a luxury collection as well.
Yes.
So we have a pink champagne alternative, which is called So Jenny, which has tropical and passion fruit notes. And we also have a 24K, which is the first halal certified non-alcoholic wine that was introduced in 2014 in Dubai. They were buying this at a rate of 28,000 bottles per month back in 2014. So this is a champagne alternative as well, and it has notes of pear as well as vanilla.
And that is 24 karat gold.
Yes.
Let's be clear about that. So it actually has 24 karat gold leaf in the beverage itself.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
You know, this should be appealing to the millennials, because I was reading, while the millennials, I guess overall, you know, gravitate towards beer, but they also like this White Claw hard seltzer. And I guess it's the spark, the fizz in it, and they like the fruity taste, and so I think catering towards the millennials with your product, I think would be I think they'd be very receptive.
To your point, Sister Denise, when we got started on this journey, we became familiar with a movement that started in the UK called Dry January.
Okay.
And we learned that this movement was actually being spearheaded by the millennial. So to your point, it is that younger demographic that is really leading the charge into creating more non-alcoholic, whether you're talking about wine, whether you're talking about beer alternatives, or you're talking about beer. And not only that, they are leading the charge in creating what are called dry bars. Now, these are actual bars, but where they serve either only in some instances or in conjunction with alcoholic beverages as well. And even in Atlanta, we were fortunate to be featured in a piece on the local CBS News affiliate in Atlanta, where there was a story of a gentleman who opened a non-alcoholic wine shop, or not necessarily a wine shop per se, but just a place where you can get non-alcoholic wine, spirit alternatives, and beer. It was like a whole bottle shop. That's probably a better way to say it. But in his thing was he had all non-alcoholic products. So this is definitely something, to your point, where the millennial generation are really leading the charge because they want something that's vegan friendly, that represents a healthy alternative, and they just feel like, look, I don't always want to drink, I don't always have to drink. So it's, you know, they look at it as something that just diversifies what they can have when they are being with their friends and family.
But I also think it's important, if I may quickly just interject this point, because I think this is important for your viewers to know. Here in America, you can refer to a product as being non-alcoholic and it still have up to 0.9% alcohol by volume. When you come to Magnolia Crescent, however, we have committed to only offering 0.0 ABV. And that is a very, very important distinction to make. Because if you are interested in not having any alcohol whatsoever, you have to be very careful when you go into some of these other locations that offer non-alcoholic products. Because it may still in fact have alcohol. And we're not going to name drop, but we're just going to state that when you pick up the bottle, turn that bottle around and check out the ABV, that's called the alcohol by volume, and it will
Okay.
give you a percentage. If it's point 0.2, point 0.7, point 0.9, 5, 10, 12, it has alcohol in it. I don't
Wow.
care. I don't care if that sign above your bottle reads non-alcoholic.
Okay.
If that ABV has a percentage and it's not 0.0, it has alcohol in it. And so I just wanted to make that distinction,
Hmm.
especially since we're talking about other places that are having bottle shops and dry
Sure.
bars, things of that nature. Because sometimes the dry bars are saying dry, but what they really mean is uh, alcohol free and low alcohol.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I've seen that within other areas too. I won't get out into that. So, what is the price range of your products, your
So
wines?
they start out at well, now with our
Gift
gift
size,
size, one of
sparkling
our
rosé.
sparkling rosés, we actually offer a gift size, which is a 200 milliliter version of the bottle that normally is 750 milliliters.
Mhm.
So that's $15. And then you get into the $25 range, $30, 35. And then from that, you get into our luxury range, which starts at 60 and it goes all the way up to 120. That's with that 24 karat champagne alternative. That's what costs $120.
Okay. Well, you have a wonderful array of
Yes.
wines here, and I'm very interested in the teas that
Yeah.
you have, also the sparkling teas. But as again, I have tried the Merlot. I tried the spice
The
drink.
vermouth,
Yeah. The vermouth.
Uh-huh. And the other Merlot, I forgot what you call this,
the
begins with the letter.
Tempranillo.
Super Neo or
I
Tupelo.
tried those. I love them all. They're all wonderful, robust flavors. Enjoy drinking them, you know.
Thank you.
So, and that's what it's all about, being happy about what you're doing, and and then just enjoying the drink itself without the drink doing anything to me,
Exactly.
like alcohol would do. I still enjoy it. So I really like your product. And so
Thank
if someone wanted to purchase from Magnolia Crescent, how would they go about doing that?
They will visit our website at magnoliacrescent.farm. And that's important. It's not .com or .org. It's magnoliacrescent.farm. Or they can give us a call at area code 404-287-5231. That's our business line. And if no one answers, just leave a message. We'll get back with you at our earliest availability. But again, primarily magnoliacrescent.farm, where you can actually place your order online. And we typically ship priority mail. So in general, we try to get orders out the next business day from when we receive them so that our customers can receive them within a few days' time.
Okay. So now, are you doing all the work yourself? You have other people helping you out? Are you getting all this done yourself?
Well, the lion's share is being done by my wife and myself. However, we have had moments where we have brought our son on. He
Okay.
actually assisted us one time where we were here in Chicago at
Okay.
Water Tower,
Did
as
a
well
great
as
job.
back in Atlanta. And we also have brought on, in some respects, children of our good friends because
Mhm.
we really want to utilize this business as a platform to help train our young people, not only in aspects of doing retail or anything of that nature, but primarily learning how to deal with people, how to interact with people, be confident, but be pleasant and be kind.
Mhm.
And so they can actually experience that it's a reciprocating type of relationship. When we
That's right.
smile and we offer a warm greeting, more times than not, we are met with that same type of energy in return. Uh,
Mhm.
it's really a pleasant experience. We have a lot of fun, and we really just have a whole bunch of pleasurable experiences interacting with our customers like we did today.
Mhm.
And so, we in our mind we are giving thought. Well, number one, we know we're going to have to make room because we can't, in order to grow and to scale the way we desire to do, we know we're not always going to be able to be on site ourselves. So we
Sure.
have to reproduce ourselves, and we have to really institutionalize the way we do business so that
Mhm.
if we're not on site interacting with our customers, the experience that they get from our staff will be consistent with what they've experienced from dealing with us.
Mhm.
Okay.
And
That's
that's a process. It's a process identifying people to help you.
Yes.
Um,
mm-hmm.
it's a process establishing your own set of standard operating procedures. Um, all of it takes time in development. And then on top of that, it really takes at least 3 years for you to establish your brand. And that's just
Okay.
basic business mechanics. And so, we're taking our, more or less taking our time. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
things sometimes speed up a little faster than what we may at times be comfortable with.
Okay.
And so we just kind of roll with the punches. But we also believe in a creator who will always equip us with everything that we need when we need it,
Absolutely.
and not a moment sooner. And
Absolutely.
so, we just continue to do what we're doing, and he will indeed make a way. But we're not in a rush. I mean, we have our venue that we are working with in collaboration with some really amazing people and amazing businesses to help us ready our property.
Okay.
We're meeting people who start out like as clients that are saying, I want to help do this, I want to help do that. And so we're definitely leaving room and making space to allow those who want to come and help.
Okay.
So we're not resisting it, but we're not necessarily searching for it either. Because even our friends uh, son recently was coming to give me help because my husband was out of town,
Okay.
and he said, I want to work for y'all. What do I need to do? And so it helps, but it's a process. you
Absolutely.
and especially when you're talking about our young people, there's a
Mm-hmm.
training that has to take place. We, as young as we may feel, there's still some generational differences, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Absolutely.
we want to create an environment that, yes, is appealing and is attractive to our young people, but we also have a certain way in which we want our business to function. And so finding that balance between being attractive, but yet being true to who we are as business owners is very important for us.
Well, it will come. It will
Yes,
come. Absolutely. Just like you started out and went to visit the orchard and you realized, understood that this is a process and you're
that's
in the process and you're moving along with it, gracefully. And so I'm very proud of the two of you, and I'm very proud to see
thank
a
you.
husband and wife working together and a black couple working together and making it happen. I'm very proud to see that. And
Thank
so
you.
now you were here in Chicago this weekend at Water Tower, and then you were at downtown, and then you were at Macy's and Evergreen. So when are you coming back to Chicago?
So we will be back the third weekend of December at Water Tower. So
Okay.
that is our residence. The third weekend of every month, for the next year, we will be at Water Tower. So consistently, if you're looking for us, that's where we will be. Our next date at Market by Macy's at Evergreen Plaza will be December the 29th, which is a Thursday. So that will
Okay.
be the next time that we're in Evergreen Park at Market by Macy's.
Okay. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, I'm going to let you have a final remark. We're going to close it up. This has been a wonderful interview, very enlightening.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I guess I'll start again. Just thank you, Sister Denise, for
Yes.
inviting us to speak with you and to introduce us to your audience.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the intention behind what it is that you're doing to create these kind of conversations and to inspire the Black consumer as well as the Black business owner to really develop a more close relationship, because that way we all benefit when we
That's
have
right.
strong, viable Black businesses. That grows, that enables us to be able to do more in the way of providing services to our community, such as providing jobs and also being able to eventually grow to actually having an impact on our every aspect of our life, from the political life to the infrastructure and everything around. And so I feel very fortunate to be included in this conversation, and we just are very appreciative of you giving us time to speak with your audience and talk to you as well.
Absolutely. Well, you're welcome. You're very welcome. And Karima?
Well, I'm in agreement with my husband. Thank you so much, Sister Denise, for having us on your wonderful show. And just being, on code, as they say, I just want to, first of all, thank everyone who has patronized Magnolia Crescent Orchards
Absolutely.
and Non-Alcoholic Winery, who has spent money on non-alcoholic wines, who has shared information with their family and friends who they know would enjoy what we have to offer. And I would also just ask those of you who are watching, wherever you are, please, please, please support Black owned businesses generally, but also support Black owned non alcoholic brands. And I would even venture to say, even those brands that even may have alcohol. And the reason why I say that is because of the fact that there are so few in representation of us,
Mhm.
of people of color in that industry, yet we are the ones that are most impacted by the the side effects of
Sure.
overindulgence in those products, right? And
Right.
so it just makes more sense, at least to me, that we have a greater amount of ownership in what we are consuming, right? And
Absolutely.
so I'm not necessarily promoting that you drink alcohol. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, if you're going to drink alcohol, support Black owned brands.
Absolutely.
Support, your Kevin Hart. Support your Rock Johnson. Support your McBride sisters. If you're going to do that, if you're going to go that route, give your money to someone who looks just like you and me that's
That's
producing
right.
these products. Because they, like you mentioned earlier in the show, they are more inclined to give back to our community, like
That's
Kevin
right.
Hart is doing right now with a grant that he's offering to small businesses, right?
That's
Um,
right.
so, and with us being a non-alcoholic winery, the premier non-alcoholic winery in the country, please, if you're going to go out and get a non-alcoholic beverage, shop with your brother and your sister. Spend your
That's
money
right.
with us. We promise that we're only going to give you the best
That's
because we
right.
know you are deserving of the best.
That's
We will
right.
provide the same level of excellence, if not more, because it's rooted in love. All we need is your support.
Absolutely. And somehow those dollars will find their way back to you in
That's
some
right.
form or fashion. And
That's
so
right.
that's what this is all about. So I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Um, we say to our family, please go to rrgbc.org and donate to our organization. We promise you that those dollars will be well worth spent within our community. So I want to thank you for coming in, and we're going to say good night and bye bye.
Peace.
Peace.